Welcome to Learning Lovecraft with Ken James and Jason McKittrick, brought to you by Cryptocurium.
There are sacraments of evil as well as of good about us, and we live and move to my belief in a known world, a place where there are caves and shadows and dwellers in twilight. It is possible that man may sometimes return on the track of evolution, and it is my belief that an awful lore is not yet dead.
Good evening, and welcome to another episode of Learning Lovecraft. I'm your host, Jason McKittrick, and joining me, as always, the traveler of the Eldritch Path, Mr. Ken James.
Good evening, folks.
And tonight, as always, we are delving into the mysterious and otherworldly realm of H.P. Lovecraft's cosmic horror. Our focus tonight, the horror at Red Hook.
Yeah, and like I tend to do in these episodes, I give a little ramble here. Apparently, this isn't a one that most people find fond.
No.
I actually like this one. Get a little cop supernatural drama. You know, I'm into that. It's a little, not so much procedural, but they could have had a court scene here where there would have been,
well,
staring people on trial. But it honestly kind of seems like a fun time supernatural cop thriller that I'm all for those. I'll take those.
Yeah, people had a fun time in this story, I guess. It has its issues. I mean, most notably the xenophobia and racism, which we'll talk about briefly.
Yeah.
But it's honestly the thing that kind of like holds it back, aside from that, obviously, is the fact that it's a waypoint story. It's in between. We're almost at the beginning of, we're almost at the Call of Cthulhu, which kind of turns almost everything around. And
right.
he's still in this one, he's still kind of using traditional, what do you want to call it, villainy or spirits. We get devils and monsters. We don't get, cosmic entities in this. And because of that, people look back at it, it's like, well, it's kind of just like a whatever story. And apparently he wrote it for a detective fiction magazine. So he was kind of going for this whole kind of like, I don't know.
Yeah, well, like underbelly, like evil underbelly,
noir kind of. I don't know, but I could see where he was going. He was kind of like writing for that audience. So I guess keeping it to like not too crazy supernatural, but I think he was just honestly still on his way to that stuff, even though we've gotten glimpses of it in other stories. Particularly this story before this. It's
funny that he's like writing this for this like detective novel, or detective magazine.
Yeah.
I'm sure most of the other ones are like, oh, this criminal, like,
right.
He's like, they handcuff him, they got their man, and like,
yeah.
He's like, in the underbelly of the world, they're sacrificing blood demon. He had to take it there, and they're like, people reading are like, what is going? Who is this guy?
Yeah, they didn't. From what I understand, they didn't accept it. It didn't make it to. I think they actually put it in Weird Tales instead. I have info on it, but
I bet.
It's so funny. I mean, some of these stories, it's like he just can't help himself. Like once he starts getting going, it's like, out come the weird creatures, out come the cursed families, out come the underground sludge fests. Like it's he loves it, and he can't help himself, and it's that, and I know that's what you're responding to. Like you're seeing, it's like, he was having a good time writing this.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay.
He's like, what would an interesting cop story be? He's like, I know.
Yeah.
Moloch and Lilith and blood demons.
Yeah. The Illuminati get together.
Yeah, exactly. That's what
he's like. Let me prophesize some of Diddy's freak offs. Hold on.
He's like, and then the baby oil came out and buckets on the floor.
Hey, what's baby oil made from?
Yeah.
Oh, fuck, I don't know.
If that was the case, like the detective walked into the basement and slipped across the floor, Home Alone style. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Well, they did have those bottles of liquid. It was red liquid, but it was
They could have been a early precursor.
I'm telling you, Howard did it first.
Yeah, it's true.
He's like, Diddy, here's an idea.
He knew all about it. He prophesied.
Oh yeah. So a little bit on the background of the story before we dig in. This was written on August 1st and 2nd of 1925. So we're right before the 100th anniversary of this story.
Nice.
Kind of interesting. And like I was saying before, they call it a transitional tale, but it is in between the earlier work and like when we really start getting into the Cthulhu mythos, which, my God, we're so close. Oh my God. And like I said, even though it depicts this cult, it's not a cult. It's a devil worshipping cult. You know what I mean? It's
Right.
just it's not. We don't find some slimy tentacled monster at the end, which we're getting to that. I can't wait.
Right. That's why I was like, this is kind of toned down for
It
him,
is.
even
It
though
is.
it's like besides things getting a little supernatural at points, I was like, this just seems like a, like an episode of True Detective,
Yeah, kind of. I mean, this, and I think that's what he kind of gives it away with that, because in the beginning, when he has that quote from Arthur Machen, I mean, Arthur Machen, his stories were a huge influence on Lovecraft, and they really think that he kind of gave him the thematic blueprint for this story, because his stories all had occult undercurrents, like with the everyday, that's what he got from that author.
So reality.
Yeah, but like reality, but like, you go scratch a little bit, or you go under, you go in the basement door of some weird building, and there's gonna be some stuff down there. Like that's a little bit from Machen.
Right. What I'm saying. So like, what happens in real life? That's everything.
Yes. And then also apparently he also got the themes of like antiquarian scholarship into like the supernatural dread. Like it's those things he kind of. He got the ideas for that, or at least like the startings of his ideas from Arthur Machen's stories. We'll reference Arthur Machen going further as well, because he was such a huge influence on Lovecraft. Just as big as Dunsany, and we'll just, your favorite.
Yeah. Well, and right before we get full steam ahead on this, I liked this one.
Yeah.
Because one, it's a nice little breath of fresh air, kind of just not like the theme, but it's kind of just meat and potatoes,
yes,
right?
It's very you don't have to, you don't sit there and be like, oh my god, what was all this? We know this stuff.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, it wasn't like, my mind wasn't like, I didn't have to go like into super like flowery wording. I was just like, okay, there's a cop, we're in here, we're here, we're there, there's this, there's that.
If you've seen The Burbs, you can grasp the story.
Yeah, Burbs is Lovecraftian.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, totally.
We don't know what they're really doing down there. What were their aims?
No.
We don't know.
No.
No. So just one little like last bit on Machen. Yes, Lovecraft did take a lot of inspiration from him, but Lovecraft used a lot of him in his epigraphs and his public praise. So a lot of us wouldn't even really know him that well if Lovecraft didn't cite him so often. So I personally wouldn't. I only know who he is because I've come across his name so many times in reading about Lovecraft and reading his stories, because he has them show up so often.
Yeah.
So.
Well, samesies, because
Yeah. So
I wouldn't know.
Machen.
I wouldn't know who you are. If it wasn't for H.P. Lovecraft. I
think this might be a whole episode. We have to explore this. All right, Ken.
All right.
The horror at Red Hook.
Mm-hmm.
This story in Lovecraft, and I pause because it's people get like angry about this story, and people get angry about it for a bunch of reasons. But the overt racism in the story and the xenophobia is what people react to the most. And the thing that people argue about the most is: are we reading an exact 1-to-1 ratio into Lovecraft's mind, or was he ramping it up because he was creating this this Irish cop who historically they're always shown as very not fond of others.
Yeah, well, as a descendant of Irish cops, I know the type.
Yeah. No Irish, but no cops. I don't think so. But it's certainly interesting to kind of think about that because at the same time, Lovecraft was living in New York City at the time, and he hated New York City.
Good on him.
Well, he hated it for reasons that, there's a quote from his wife, Sonia, at the time when she made a biography years later, and she spoke a lot about Lovecraft. And one of the things that she said was that, quote, whenever we found ourselves in the racially mixed crowds which characterize New York City, Howard would become livid with rage. He seemed almost to lose his mind. Yeah.
Man.
Yeah. So it's just something to comment on and think about. I mean, we're not going to sit here and pick apart the psychology of Howard Phillips Lovecraft and his time in, New England and then moving to New York City. It's kind of obvious what happens. You get a small town guy comes into a city. He's most of the time, and especially back then, he's coming in here in the 1920s. he just couldn't deal with it so well. And this story is obviously his reaction to it.
Right.
He's like, obviously there's disgusting things under the streets that are animating these, what do you call them, loafers?
Yeah.
Well, it's one of the things he calls them. But it's, just wanted to put it out there because it's one of the things that people definitely, they deride the story for. And, rightfully so. It's right there on Front Street. And it's just, it's certainly something that, should be mentioned whenever you're discussing the story. But from here on out, we're just going to discuss how, I don't know, how weird this story is as far as Lovecraft stories go.
Yeah, it is. It is like a, it's a weird, it's definitely weird for him. But like I said, it's super meat and potatoes. And I got it. It was one of those things where I was like, yeah, I get this.
Oh yeah, totally. So as we begin, we're told that not many weeks ago, in the quiet village of Pascoag, Rhode Island, I hope I pronounced that correctly.
I think it's good.
Okay. A curious incident took place, Ken. A man, quote, tall, heavily built, and wholesome looking, walked into town, but something strange occurs.
Now, when he says heavily built, are we picturing like a muscular dude or like he's, got a nice belly on him,
I would say a nice belly because he's also later in his career at this point. So maybe he was like a stout guy back in the day, but now that he's like, he's on leave and he's kind of like
baseball coach vibes. Baseball coach vibes.
Kind of. I mean, he's not as big as the other guy, but he's certainly, he's got some heft.
You're right. That's what I in my head, that's where I want it to go. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. He could throw some fists.
Mm-hmm.
And while he's walking in town, something strange really occurs. He stares at this building and he lets out this, what Lovecraft calls a terrified hysterical shrieks. and he bolts, right?
Yeah.
And he's tripping and falling at this crossway. And, locals rush over to help and they recognize him immediately. This is our main character, Thomas Malone, a New York police detective on leave recently. Bruised and ashamed, Malone mumbled an explanation about, something like being like overworked and like, he's like, I don't know, I'm sorry, I just, whatever. And then he walks back up the road and then just doesn't look back. But the truth, I don't know, Ken, the truth is stranger. I think there's something going on.
Right. And like we said, we were talking prior, this is the first Lovecraft story that I've gotten to where the narrator isn't in the story. It's just a straight up narration explaining, hey, this happened in this tale.
Yeah, it's almost like it's someone recounting this thing. It's like, oh, we know this guy from around the way. He's from here in Rhode Island, and he went to New York City and had a bad time. It's almost like he's talking about himself.
Yeah.
So the townsfolk of Chepachet and Pascoag, I'm gonna go with those. They came to know him. Malone had spent months in Brooklyn's Red Hook. Described as sort of a ravaged district of collapsing brick tenements. And during a certain raid that the police conducted, several old buildings had caved in, killing what they found out later were prisoners and fellow officers.
Yeah.
The horror of the casualties and all the things that happened kind of it really kind of messed with him. It kind of left him in this traumatic state. And his doctor said, you need to go just chill. You can't be doing this. You don't need to see anything like this. You need to just relax. And Howard gives us this description.
There had been a collapse of several old brick buildings during a raid in which he had shared, and something about the wholesale loss of life, both of prisoners and of his companions, had peculiarly appalled him. As a result, he had acquired an acute and anomalous horror of any buildings even remotely suggesting the ones which had fallen in, so that in the end, mental specialists forbade him the sight of such things for an indefinite period. A police surgeon with relatives in Chepachet had put forward that quaint hamlet of wooden colonial houses as an ideal spot for the psychological convalescence. And thither the sufferer had gone, promising never to venture among the brick-lined streets of larger villages.
So when Malone first tried to tell the doctor something more, something about this occult horror lurking in these brick slums, they're like, yeah, okay, whatever. they just out and out just don't believe him. So, he holds his peace and accepts that not everyone would believe his story. They're just not going to believe it. It's too fantastical. And even at this point, he's kind of like, I don't know if what I saw really happened anyway.
Yeah, that's where the Lovecraft narrator comes in,
right? Because secretly he was convinced there was quote, a horror beyond all human conception and an evil dragged from elder worlds. And it's like, there's Howard. And these are all embedded in these decaying, awful streets. It's funny. He looks at New York City and he's like, it's just disgusting. Lovecraft describes Malone as this complex figure, born near Dublin, so he's a real Irishman. I mean, he's come over here, educated in literature and philosophy, and with a quote fair vision of weird and hidden things, which is interesting. So it's like he's connected a little bit. It's like maybe he's able to see he's able to see these things, whereas others might not. So he's from the Magic Island. So I was going to say, yeah, so he's connected a little bit, which I was like, that's pretty cool.
Hung out around some fairy mounds,
Exactly.
Visited Stonehenge, probably.
I'm gonna say, he's visited some circles of stones under the full moonlight.
Hellfire Club.
Sure, Jesus. But even though he has this kind of like, I don't want to say foot in the other world, but even though he has this, he's also endowed with what Lovecraft calls this like keen logic. Like, even though he has this, this little bit of like spiritualism, whatever you want to call it, he's very logical. He's not going to, be taken with flights of fancy.
Yeah, he's got the Batman in him.
Yeah, I like that. So he'd left Ireland and then pursued bizarre underworld lines of inquiry in New York and discovered truths too dreadful for most minds. All right. And now his, quote, private secrets had driven him to flee this brick-lined towns, and all brick-lined towns, to be honest. And he just, because he thinks these secrets are just not going to stay hidden for long. So he's just trying to he's like, I don't know what happens under, just seeing these brick buildings is just like, it's a trigger for him. He sees them. He can't handle it because I've seen things that would just turn your hair white or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's the end of part one. I should have mentioned from the top, we were having a little fun up there, but this is 7 parts. I don't know why this is in 7 parts. You could cut this down to 5, maybe even 4, because he gets into his what is this? The second part that we're getting to now. It's just him describing how disgusting the place is and how disgusting the people.
Yeah,
it's like okay.
Yeah, he's like, you know what? He's like, to spare the heavy details on other things. Yeah. I'm just going to focus on the people here, and we'll get very detailed.
Thanks, buddy. Thanks. And he paints it as a, quote, maze of hybrid squalor. And this is hugging right along Brooklyn's waterfront. And since he loved this place so much, we'll let Howard take this next passage.
Red Hook is a maze of hybrid squalor near the ancient waterfront opposite Governor's Island, with dirty highways climbing the hill from the wharves to that higher ground, where the decayed lengths of Clinton and Court Streets lead off toward the Borough Hall. Its houses are mostly of brick, dating from the first quarter to the middle of the 19th century, and some of the obscurer alleys and byways have that alluring antique flavor which conventional reading leads us to call Dickensian. The population is a hopeless tangle and enigma, Syrian, Spanish, Italian, and Negro elements impinging upon one another, and fragments of Scandinavian and American belts lying not far distant. It is a babel of sound and filth, and sends out strange cries to answer the lapping of oily waves at its grimy piers and the monstrous organ litanies of the harbor whistles.
Yeah.
That's a little cute little, vacation spot?
Yeah, right. Who doesn't want to live amongst that?
Exactly. But it's immediately they tell us that, Malone kind of senses it immediately. He's like, there's this, social decay that we're seeing right here, but there's something else to this, right?
He's Irish, so he's like, there's a lot of Italians out there. So not digging that.
No like.
Yeah.
And then we get this next passage.
He was conscious, as one who united imagination with scientific knowledge, that modern people under lawless conditions tend uncannily to repeat the darkest instinctive patterns of primitive half-ape savagery in their daily life and ritual observances. And he had often viewed with an anthropologist's shudder the chanting, cursing processions of blear-eyed and pockmarked young men, which wound their way along in the dark small hours of morning. One saw groups of these youths incessantly, sometimes in leering vigils on street corners, sometimes in doorways playing eerily on cheap instruments of music, sometimes in stupefied dozes or indecent dialogues around cafeteria tables near Borough Hall, and sometimes in whispering converse around dingy taxicabs drawn up at the high stoops of crumbling and closely shuttered old houses. They chilled and fascinated him more than he dared confess to his associates on the force, for he seemed to see in them some monstrous thread of secret continuity, some fiendish, cryptical, and ancient pattern utterly beyond and below the sordid mass of facts and habits and haunts, listed with such conscientious technical care by the police. They must be, he felt inwardly, the heirs of some shocking and primordial tradition, the sharers of debased and broken scraps from cults and ceremonies older than mankind.
So there it is. So right there, he's linking this whole area with just ancient evil, not just, everyday evil. This is, these people have all congregated together, and because, people mixed, awful things happened.
Yeah. Yeah, of course, when there's a bunch of, to him, foreign people around, they're doing old kinds of like the, voodoo and hoodoo and...
Yeah. I mean, you probably have that, but in reality, what about all the great food that you're probably getting?
Exactly. That's what it probably is.
Yeah. He's like, I don't like the smell of this food they're cooking.
Yeah. It's probably all like slamming awesome food.
Yeah.
And he's just used to, I'm Irish, I could say it, potatoes.
Yeah.
Just boiled meats.
Yeah. He's sticking with that stuff, and meanwhile he's turning his nose up. He's missing out on the tamales. He's missing out on just great stuff.
Yeah. I don't even know, something with a falafel, it's going
anything,
it's
any
going
of those
down.
Things. Yeah, he's missing out on all the good stuff. I just don't get it. So even before we meet our next big character in the story, Malone already can tell that Red Hook is a place where there's like a primeval kind of evil lives underneath the streets, and that's part 2. That's it. Part 2. Yeah. It's a description of disgusting. That's it.
That's it.
So we move into part 3, and we're introduced to Robert Sidom, our interesting wizard type character for this movie.
Almost Ebenezer Scrooge-like.
Kind of. And I don't know why I pictured Ron White. I don't know why.
Okay, I pictured something similar. It wasn't Ron White, but it was something very similar, especially with the long hair and
and the very, I don't know why, I just imagine a very red alcoholic face. I don't know why.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah. So he's this recluse of this old Dutch lineage. He lives in this decaying Flatbush mansion. He owns little wealth now, but has spent decades collecting dusty tomes on, quote, medieval superstition. His library is, quote, solidly packed with tattered books of ponderous, archaic, and vaguely repellent aspect. This calls back to the festival.
Yeah.
Remember, he shows up at the much better story, but he shows up at those the homes, and they have just the bookcase just full of all the the occult tomes, Necronomicons there.
Yeah. He's like, I'll read this for a bit.
Right. And this is another area in the story where you could see where he's purposely not trying to go in there. He's like, and then I heard the hellish whisperings of the Necronomicon. It's like, no, it's just devils.
Yeah.
That's what it is. We get this fun little description of Sidom from Lovecraft.
Sidam was a lettered recluse of ancient Dutch family, possessed originally of barely independent means, and inhabiting the spacious but ill-preserved mansion which his grandfather had built in Flatbush when that village was little more than a pleasant group of colonial cottages surrounding the steepled and ivy-clad Reformed church with its iron-railed yard of Netherlandish gravestones. In his lonely house, set back from Martens Street amidst a yard of venerable trees, Sidam had read and brooded for some 6 decades, except for a period a generation before, when he had sailed for the old world and remained there out of sight for 8 years. He could afford no servants, and would admit but few visitors to his absolute solitude, eschewing close friendships and receiving his rare acquaintances in one of the 3 ground-floor rooms, which he kept in order a vast, high-ceiled library whose walls were solidly packed with tattered books of ponderous, archaic, and vaguely repellent aspect. The growth of the town and its final absorption in the Brooklyn district had meant nothing to Sidam, and he had come to mean less and less to the town. Elderly people still pointed him out on the streets, But to most of the recent population, he was merely a queer, corpulent old fellow whose unkempt white hair, stubbly beard, shiny black clothes, and gold-headed cane earned him an amused glance and nothing more.
I wanted to pull that quote as well. Do you remember the name Mortens?
Yes.
It's the family from the Lurking Fear.
Yeah, I know it was the family was the Lurking Fear. That's the one. Dude, once you get to story 40,
I know.
40, you're like,
hey, that's why we would check in, man. It was refreshing.
Martens.
And there could be a link. I'll talk about it later.
Right.
Because that story that's also up that was in the Catskills.
Mm-hmm.
So his only heir is a distant relative who has grown alarmed by Sidam's odd change in behavior recently. He's got these late night wanderings, these wild claims of, quote, impending wonders, and habit of consorting with swarthy, evil-looking strangers.
Yeah, we're well aware of the swarthy folk from Castle Freak, the film.
It's true, and I don't know why I thought the word showed up more in this film. So I checked the document that I have the Red Hook, and I was like, how many times do they use swarthy in here? It's only twice.
Yeah,
I thought it was like at least 30.
And it's great because we read this after Castle Freak, and I used swarthy in the Castle Freak episode 14 times.
14, so, no shit.
It was a lot. I didn't count, but it was fun.
Just called that the swarthy episode.
Exactly, and it was fun to come to this and hear, see Howard using it. I was like, all right, pretty sweet. I'm on the same page with the H-Man.
Hopefully not too much.
With
we
one word,
know
with
what
one
you
word,
meant, buddy.
With one word. With one.
So he also starts buying strange foreign books and maintains a squalid basement flat in Parker Place, where detectives heard, quote, strange cries and chants and prancing of feet.
Prancing.
Yeah. What's going on down there?
Yeah, that's when you know it's the good evil magic, When you get MFers prancing, I'm picturing in my head.
Yeah.
The visual and the sound.
So at the rightful old world court, Sidam starts to feign this eccentric scholarship, and he tells the judge, Howard is going to tell us actually.
Yeah.
He was, he said, engaged in the investigation of certain details of European tradition, which required the closest contact with foreign groups and their songs and folk dances. The notion that any low secret society was preying upon him, as hinted by his relatives, was obviously absurd.
Yeah, now when I got to that part in the story, I was like, hell of a cover, dude.
Yeah.
Hell of a cover. Like, what he, he's talking to the judge, he's telling him, look, Your Honor, here's what I do.
Yeah.
Okay? And it's like, beautiful. Because if I was a judge and I heard that, I'd be like, makes sense.
Yeah.
Also, I want to keep the food around.
Yeah.
So, good on you, dude.
Maybe that's why he was so big at that point. You think he was just into all the international food that was coming through there. That's all he was really doing.
You would think.
Yeah, and then having a freak off. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. But you would think all those things, but then, the turn the story takes.
No, you find out later it's way fucked. But outside the courtroom, federal inspectors and Malone himself piece together Sidam's circle. And they're described as a gang of unclassified slant-eyed folk. Jesus, Howard. Using the Arabic alphabet, hated even by local Syrians. It's like, oh man.
Yeah,
like,
yeah. He could have just said some form of Asian. Asian he could have said.
He couldn't help it.
No.
A decrepit Gothic stone church on the waterfront, nominally Catholic, but denied by all real priests, whose hidden organ might send up cracked bass notes far underground. I love that.
Yeah.
That's great. Like, you feel that vibration at night, so you kind of hear, it's like, what the hell is that?
Yeah, and just the way the church is described, it's just like,
yeah, it's just like the Klopex house.
Yeah.
I'm just realizing that this story is the Burbs.
It is the Burbs, yeah.
Except we did.
Day.
Yep. Yeah. Except they don't hit a gas pipe; they get something else happens.
Yes.
And then Sidam ties to a group possibly descended from these Yazidi devil worshippers. So, like, this is kind of like they're giving you this idea already that he's tied to these ancient, like, cult related. I I don't know.
Yeah, well, I'm sure
religions
there's
or cultures.
Yeah,
there's lots of chanting.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Mutilations. Mutilations.
If you guys are new to this show, and not familiar with other, we do love The Burbs. We're obsessed. We quote. That's one of our movies we quote a lot. So.
Yep.
Apologies.
One of my favorite movies.
Apologies, but not apologies.
At this point, they know what they're getting. We're very conversational here.
Yeah. Well, for the new folk as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
The Burbs is awesome. You haven't seen it, go watch it.
Oh, go watch it. I wouldn't be surprised if we cover that in Cyclopean Cinema at some point.
Yeah, exactly. Pause this. Go watch it now.
Right.
Come on back.
Right. So now Malone gets his assignment, right? He now needs to determine how these undocumented Kurds arrived and what Sidam is up to. All right, this is too weird. Like there's something going on. There's subterranean shenanigans, prancing footsteps, and cracked bass notes. So he needs to know what's going on. He suspects the old recluse is not merely a scholar, but the quote archfiend at the center of some monstrous cult.
Yes. I love archfiends.
Yeah, I mean, who doesn't? And that moves us into part 4. And this is where we get Malone's investigation, which this is where, for me, it really started to like, okay, we're finally getting to something. So Malone descends into Red Hook's alleyways using subtle police craft, casual conversation, tries to talk to informants, just trying to kind of not canvass the neighborhood, but just be kind of, talk to some locals, kind of figure out, it's like, hey, where's all the devil worshiping going on? But he's saying it with an Irish accent, so it's probably hysterical.
Right. And also, too, I'm starting to realize that I think Malone, he's a husky horror dude, isn't he?
Oh, absolutely. And he also offers these dudes liquor whenever he's like, hey, do you know anything about these devils? And just like,
yeah, you want some of this?
Hangs back, has the bottle. He's just like,
yeah, what up, bro?
Yeah, it's wild. No, he's a detective, and it's fun to see him. Lovecraft writing this detective type character.
Yeah, and you don't often get the detective with like the one foot in the occult. It's usually like they're usually like, no, this is all a lot. There's a logical explanation. It's good to have a detective that's already Fox Moldering about it,
and that's why he made him Irish. He was like, what? Yeah. Who would be superstitious but not ridiculous?
Yeah,
I know.
yeah. Those potato-eating Irish.
Yep. And Howard gives us this next passage.
The newcomers were indeed Kurds, but of a dialect obscure and puzzling to exact philology. Such of them as lived mostly as dock hands and unlicensed peddlers, though frequently serving in Greek restaurants and tending corner newsstands. Most of them, however, had no visible means of support, and were obviously connected with underworld pursuits of which smuggling and bootlegging were the least indescribable. They had come in steamships, apparently tramp freighters, and had been unloaded by stealth on moonless nights in rowboats, which stole under a certain wharf and followed a hidden canal to a secret subterranean pool beneath a house. This wharf, canal, and house Malone could not locate, for the memories of his informants were exceedingly confused, while their speech was to a great extent beyond even the ablest interpreters, nor could he gain any real data on the reasons for their systematic importation. They were reticent about the exact spot from which they had come, and were never sufficiently off guard to reveal the agencies which had sought them out and directed their course. Indeed, they developed something like acute fright when asked the reasons for their presence. Gangsters of other breeds were equally taciturn, and the most that could be gathered was that some god or great priesthood had promised them unheard of powers and supernatural glories and rulerships in a strange land.
So, midnight arrivals in, they're already using these canal things, which I think is really cool. It's like, and this goes back to, is it New York City that has the alligators in the sewers? Like, is this where this started?
Yes.
So, after gathering this information and then hearing all these, rumors and whatnot, Malone finally tries to interview Sidam. But Sidam's not having it. And he basically tells him, I'll just read it. I know of nothing of any mysterious plots or movement. I simply study the folklore of immigrants. It's like, okay. So Malone's like, yeah, he's lying.
Yeah.
And convinced of it. So,
well, yeah, because Malone's like, dude, that's what I do.
Yeah. And then we get a little bit of stalling here because Lovecraft only kind of glances over it, but due to jurisdictional fights, the investigation stalls for a few months. And in that time, Sidam kind of undergoes this weird kind of makeover.
Yeah.
Right?
He gets his swagger back.
Yeah, it's more than a swagger, man. I mean, he's probably on the Zempies, but he's clean shaven. He's got groomed hair, and his attire is just he's snapping.
Yeah, he's feeling it, dude. He's on.
Yeah. He's like trim now, like he's not overweight at all, and he looks decades younger. Mm-hmm. If they would have described him with a hollow voice, we would have had it. That would have been it right there. He renovates his mansion, hosts these like receptions, and announces his inherited money. Okay, and he's going to retire to to the good life.
Yeah, he's like, I'm done. I look great, feel great, rich again. Yeah. What up?
But if you have your foot in the other world, you're like, wait a minute, this guy, what?
Yeah. Most people on the street were like, "Oh, you look fantastic. You look decades younger. What's your secret?" And Malone's just like, something's going on over there.
Right.
I don't like what I'm seeing over there.
Don't say Lucky Charms. Don't say.
I wouldn't. I'm. Don't. Anytime someone does an Irish accent and says it.
Yeah.
I get that from my father. He was like that. He'd be like, "They're taking something." He'd freak out about that. The movie The Leprechaun.
Yeah.
There's something sweet for children, and they're making it a monster. It's like, all right, dude.
That's funny that's the take. Not that you're making a mockery of Irish culture. You're taking the children thing and making it a monstrous thing. But
then he hated the Lucky Charms thing too, because he was just like, this is disrespect, blatant disrespect to the Irish people. It's like, drop me off in first grade, Dad.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, Dad, I'm 7.
Yeah. Come on, man.
That's great.
All right. Cigarette in his mouth.
Right. So even though this is going on, even though Sidam is, got his groove back or whatever, the underworld happenings still seem to be occurring, and there's that dance hall church that mentioned earlier. It's still, they're still hearing these noises at night, and it's it seems as like there's something is going on in the basement down there. There's music, there's tittering. I think they use that word like 30 times. He needs to find out what's going on. But this is where we get there's the two big turning points for this story here. There, which kind of come out of nowhere. We have Sidam getting engaged. Mm-hmm. We get this, this newspaper article about this Miss Cornelia Gerritsen of Bayside, and she's related to him. Oh yeah,
totally.
Of course,
stuff. Yeah.
The Illuminati eye is on all the stuff. Like what? Yeah,
they vacation in the the grove, in a grove somewhere.
I was gonna say a certain island that got.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
It's all here, folks. It's in here. We'll talk about it at the end.
Yes.
But more importantly, we get the raid on the dance hall / church. So Malone joins the city police in this, and the building is actually empty, but inside he sees some shit.
Yeah, it gets wild.
There were crudely painted panels he did not like, panels which depicted sacred faces with peculiarly worldly and sardonic expressions, and which occasionally took liberties that even a layman's sense of decorum could scarcely countenance. Then, too, he did not relish the Greek inscription on the wall above the pulpit, an ancient incantation which he had once stumbled upon in Dublin college days, and which read, literally translated, "O friend and companion of night, thou who rejoicest in the baying of dogs and spilt blood, who wanderest in the midst of shades among the tombs, who longest for blood and bringest terror to mortals, Gorgo, Mormo, thousand-faced moon, look favorably on our sacrifices."
See, here's the deal. Me, I'm one for all for Law and Order. I'm a Malone fan here.
Yeah.
But if I read that, besides the very last part, the sacrifices, I'd be like, I'm kind of into that.
You would want to know more.
I would want to kind of party if it wasn't for the sacrifice part.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because
I'd be like, can I get closer and can we not do the sacrifices? Can I chill and we just don't sacrifice?
I mean, because you looking at this, you're like, they're sacrificing. It's not going to be like, money,
Yeah.
fruit.
Yeah. Even animals, you're like, something
Even
tells
then,
me.
it's like, you know what? It's like, this might be a fun party, but like the party stops when they slit the cow's throat. It's like, I'm just not into it.
Yeah. Ooh, you're like, I don't like to see how the sausage is made.
My buzz is gone.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, I'm going to go down to the local tavern and try to wash this off.
And just do what I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's going to wash it off with, a couple gallons of whiskey. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
Malone gets
Malone. He does. He's got the alcohol on him all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So this site of this inscription, it does freak Malone out. And he seems to get the idea that he as he's reading it, there's almost like a cadence to it, and he's like, this kind of matches the organ notes that he's heard underground. He's like, oh, okay. He's like, so he's already like, all right, so this is part of some kind of ritual. And obviously, this is not some local, like, weirdos getting together in the basement and doing some kind of like, this has to be some kind of like ancient, like demon lore. Yeah.
I love that he put that together too. He's got the magic eye, like Denzel says in Training Day. You got the magic eye, Jake.
Yep. And then he needs his money. I don't know.
Yeah. Right.
And he's left to ponder there, and we're brought into section 5. We get this is a strange interlude. And this is when Sidam's wedding and the murder at sea, right?
Yeah.
Very strange interlude. And I see why he put it in there, and this is also part of, in my opinion, the weaker writing and construction of the story, because it's just, there's so much in here. There's stuff, it's like, just get to the fucking point.
Yeah.
It's what it is. But so it's a bright June day, Flatbush, New York. The old Dutch church is all decorated. We've got the cars lining the streets. The Sidams wed. Lavish ceremony. It's tops and tails. Everybody's having a great time. Big rich wedding. But by 5 p.m., the bride and groom board this canard liner at the pier, and they're bound for Europe. And it looks like it's going to be a nice day, a nice wedding. But things don't work out so well. That immediately that night, this horror unfolds below deck.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay. I just want to put a little biographical note in here. I think he did this because at this point he was already regretting getting married.
Ooh, okay.
Because his New York stories, and I think maybe we should talk about this when we're done with his New York stories, they're very autobiographical. This story, he must have wrote it like angrily with a fucking crayon and shoved it in a drawer. He's like, fucking get married. Like, this was obvious to me. And then rereading it, I was like, oh, murder right after getting married. And there's like devil worship, and like, oh, she's, it's like, oof. It's like, okay. And it's not even just like, it's personal. She gets like strangled, and there's like claw marks on her. And I was like, damn, Howard.
She's like, tell me not to brood in the corner like I like to do.
Tell me I need to get a job.
Yeah. Writing's a damn good job. You're not my father.
Yeah.
You're not my father.
Yeah. So a sailor bursts into Sidam's cabin, and there's this scene unfolds where, like I said, a strangulation. Sidam's new wife is dead. Her throat's marked by this claw, and they already give you the idea that, I think it says, it couldn't have come from a human hand. It's clearly a demonic claw. And then on the white wall, in like these, and it's only for like a minute, right? It's only for like a flash. These blood red letters glow in it's like this, it's the ancient language, but it says Lilith. Like they see, right, it says Lilith. It's like, oh, okay. Like she did the crime, and then she like left her tag. It's like, all right.
Yeah. Yes, left the tag. That's funny. Yeah, it was like on a playground, you're on the slide.
Yeah. She's like, who did this shit? And they just point right at it. Lilith. Again? So after seeing these letters on the wall, the ship's doctor arrives, and he finds that one of the portholes in the room is open, and it's clouded by this, what he calls, a certain phosphorescence. Little shout out back to Shun House.
Yeah.
And here's a faint and hellish tittering. This will be the calling card for this entity. Yet he refuses to admit seeing it and remains sane. So he kind of just like, oh, I didn't see that. I'm not going to go crazy. That didn't just happen. I have work to do. But he also fails to mention that the Mrs. Sidem at this point, all of her blood was drained from her veins.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, certain men who are seen leaving the liner, I have these pockets that are just bulging, like they have all this stuff in their pockets. It's a little clumsy, but I see what he's trying to do.
Yeah.
So moments later, a group of quote swart, insolent ruffians in officer's dress forces the captain's hand. They demand Sidem's body, and they present him this crumpled note. We'll let Howard take that away.
In case of sudden or unexplained accident or death on my part, please deliver me or my body unquestioningly into the hands of the bearer and his associates. Everything for me, and perhaps for you, depends on absolute compliance. Explanations can come later. Do not fail me now. Robert Sidam.
All right. I mean, that clearly is nothing fishy about that. So the doctor and captain exchange word glances but comply. The body is wrapped in bedding, carried off to a tramp steamer without being uncovered. And then by radio at dawn, the world learns of the horrible affair that had occurred at sea. And that's the end of part 5. We're moved into part 6. Actually, I should say this. This is where it really starts to get nuts.
No, that is a weird thing to like cut to like the maritime stuff. Like that is just a weird.
It is strange. I think it gets to remove them from the area for a bit for whatever reason. I guess to get eyes off of them. It gives you. It is very strange, and I actually think it is a weak part of the writing and structure of this story.
But I'm trying to think. I think around maybe the same time, the first like viral murder went like made news, and everyone was like.
Okay.
Because and it actually took place. The murder happened, I believe, in England, and then the murderer ended up. It was basically a guy killed his wife, and him and his lover. His lover was dressed like a boy. Basically, said it was his son. They hopped a ship, and it turned out the ship knew that this was the fugitive and the murderer, and they ended up like getting word back to like land like. We have him, and like it became like the first like viral murder ever.
Okay.
So that might have been why he was like, because that was kind of maybe big at the time, and he was like, I want to incorporate that like a theme like that. Maybe I don't know. I'm just spitballing as to why.
No, yeah, I mean that's news to me. I mean, I honestly don't know. I mean, other than she dies off camera essentially, and then we get to see this glimpse of this creature, this Lilith, and then. The blood thing starts, and then once you read forward, it's like okay, so they came in, they filled those vials full of her blood, and they whatever. There you go. Blood rituals, but it is kind of strange that they go out on this thing, and when they're gone, it is definitely clumsy for sure. But you know what, you're right. It could be some kind of shout out to something that happened during the time that we just either we lost, or we just don't know, or Howard was just read something in the paper. Maybe he was like, oh, you know like what, tramp steamer, do it.
Yeah.
So while this, insanity is happening out at sea for whatever reason, meanwhile, back in Red Hook, a new terror, grips the neighborhood. 3 children, blue-eyed Norwegian orphans, of course, have vanished. Rumors fly. They're talking about Vikings communities near Gowanus prepare to mob Red Hook. It's like, wait a minute. These guys are so upset they're reverting back to their like raping and pillaging days.
Yeah, hey. Or that's just how Howard thinks,
That's like, Howard. He's like, oh, Vikings. Yeah, if you just say something wrong, they just come through and they just wipe your village
You
out.
Spit gum near them, you're done.
They come and take your wives and they just burn your house.
They have a berserker ritual where they do drugs and become wolves essentially.
Right, like in the beginning of the Northmen.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. But Malone convinces his colleagues this is the time. We gotta get in there, and we gotta take this shit down. I mean, this is enough. We gotta get down there, and while it's happening, we gotta take it down. So at midnight, the police descend on Parker Place and the this dance hall church. Doors get kicked in. The rooms are all emptied out. We get these quote thronging foreigners in figured robes, miters, and other inexplicable devices. Incense smoke chains of the smoke are in the air. There's spattered blood everywhere. So exactly like I said earlier, it's a Diddy freak off. They come in there right at like the worst possible moment. You know what I mean? It's like they've already been like, this is probably even a night. They're like, hey, you want to do like a fourth hit? They're like, no, like, come on. Like, no one's even bothering. And this is like the worst possible time is when the police kick the door in. So they've seen all the weirdest stuff. And then Howard just put that as inexplicable devices. It's like, oof. So everything was going on, everything under the sun, essentially, I would think. And, this is why we get Malone's kind of fear here, because Howard even tells us that Malone shuddered whenever he saw brazier or altar form, which the smoke was still rising. It was like something had like just happened. You know what I mean? Like they had just like whatever they were doing down there, whatever kind of sacrifices, they had just like something insane just happened. So as this is all going on, Malone hurries over to Sidam's basement flat. And once again, he finds the dusty tomes, arcane instruments, glass bottles, and gold ingots. It's like, it's wild. It's like the Temple of Doom or something. And then each of these gold ingots, Lovecraft mentions that they have those weird hieroglyphics that he had seen on the walls in the first place, and then what's down here. And we get this weird like passage of these names. And then coming across this, what did you think when you saw this weird string of names? And if you want, if we could have Howard read it, and then we'll discuss it.
Yeah, let's have Howard read it first.
Helaloim, Sother, Emenvel, Sabbath, Agla, Tetragrammaton, Adrothos, Asirathanodo, Jehovah, Viadnais, Amovson, Messias, Escherahai.
Yeah, well, I was like fallen angels and then Greek fallen angels. That's what I thought.
Yeah, and Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jehovah right there.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, so it's almost like, are these ancient names, or they're just trying to cover their bases? They're like, let's just call them all out.
Get them all out here.
Yeah, like Benny in The Mummy. He's got all the necklaces.
Yeah.
No, not that one. Okay.
You're on the wrong side of the river.
Yep.
Benny.
This has nothing to do with the story, but the other day I saw one of those like custom action figure makers. They'll do like the bubble in the board, and like they have like custom thing. It's just the chair that he throws at Benny. It's like the chair that Rick throws at Benny.
Man, remember that guy? He was like the henchman or like the other guy in like every movie.
Yeah.
Deep Rising, No Escape.
Yeah.
He was Igor in Van Helsing.
Yes, he was.
Man, look at me in my 90s era knowledge.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's never talk about Van Helsing again, though.
Yeah.
So you see those names. It's like, all right, so he's really pulling in all the occult stuff that he has knowledge on, and it's like, okay, they're into everything essentially, and I think the thinking with at least from Howard's perspective here is that this is a mix, just like all these people in these cults are. It's a mix of all these things, and they're putting all these things together, and apparently the mixing of this stuff is what's creating these.
Yeah, well, if you look at like Creole religion and Creole voodoo, they do a lot of that mixing Christianity with the voodoo. So like there's like statues of Mary, pictures of Jesus next to like, Jobu.
Yeah, no, it's one of those, it was like some archaeological dig. It was down in like Louisiana. They had like, they were like miraculous medals of like the Virgin Mary, but they had like altered them to become like whatever, I forget the name of their main goddess. I was like, oh, that's interesting. Yeah. Like, so they could still have it. So like at a quick glance, like, oh no, she's just wearing like, that miraculous medal or whatever. But then you look closer and it's like this, like it had like a skull face. I was like, holy shit.
Wendigo riff. Oh my God.
After this, we get this actually very cool little passage. It's kind of thrown away, and I think it helps inform some of the things, a couple of little mysteries that occur at the story here. But there's this cat that kind of darts across the floor, and it knocks over a beaker of that crimson liquid that he's been talking about. Yeah. And Malone kind of flinches, and then he kind of suggests that like he says that he can't forget that the cat's eyes are the way that it seemed to warp as it disappeared into the shadows. So right there, where it's like, okay, that blood, whatever that stuff is, whatever that stuff is, it does stuff to people. Like there's some kind of like, some kind of, I don't know, metamorphosis or some kind of something that happens.
They've been doing something to make the blood something else.
Right.
Because now it's not just blood.
No. And this is where he finds the locked cellar door.
What do you think they did? Like, do you think they played music and did the rituals around the blood until it or do you think the sacrifice, like they had to do all that, then make the sacrifice, and then the blood?
Save that for the end because.
Right, excuse me, sorry.
Yeah, because then they kind of tell us some.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
It's okay. It's okay. You're excited. I'm excited.
Yeah, I get excited about blood magic.
So he finds the locked cellar door. He grabs this heavy stool. He smashes it, only to have the door burst open from the other side. All right, and this is where it's like, okay, now the cosmic horror kind of is starting to come in. And we'll let Howard describe it.
A howling tumult of ice-cold wind with all the stenches of the bottomless pit, and whence reached a sucking force not of earth or heaven, which, coiling sentiently about the paralyzed detective, dragged him through the aperture and down unmeasured spaces filled with whispers and wails, and gusts of mocking laughter.
There he is. He's sucked into this pit, and I think this is kind of this reminds me of we were talking about back when we did Under the Pyramids, like when Houdini goes through that aperture, right? It's like this is the part where it's like you're crossing the threshold.
Yeah, once
this
you
is
get
not
lowered
just
in,
this is not just the door. This is you're stepping into the other side.
Right. And now coming up here, I think this is where 80s and 90s people, that especially ones that made movies and did like adaptations of it, this is where I think they're like, oh no, I'm heavily influenced by Lovecraft because of certain things that are about to happen, especially the rhythmic chanting. You'll see, but I think this part coming up is Hellraiser, any kind of
this is the deleted scene from Event Horizon that we didn't get to see.
Right, exactly. So what I'm saying is this is where they got all these ideas from in the 80s and 90s horror genre, where you would see he has all the notes here, and you're going to see him like I when I was reading it, I was like, wow, that's every like shock cult, supernatural demon entity, organ, like group of people doing something that
it's
you
all
see
there
in every movie.
Yep. No, it's all there, and it's it's him trying to channel whatever kind of demonic orgy you would think of, like what would be the worst shit that you would see down there, and he does it in a great way, because I mean this is the best part of the story is when he's talking about this, because he uses the way that he describes things, but describes it in sort of a vague way, because it's like he gives us these descriptions, but like the way, this is the power I think that Lovecraft has in his writing. It's like he says it, but because of the way that he constructs it in the sentence, it just sets your imagination off immediately. Like, I know exactly what he means, and you start filling in the blanks. You're like, I know exactly what's happening here. It stinks. There's these monsters. They're chewing people. There's people screaming. There's naked people. There's corpses hanging from the ceiling. And
this and now too. Like when I got to this point, and you telling me that he wrote this for a detective magazine, now it's like he wanted to get here the whole time, and he was trying to captivate that audience, and bring them this stuff, to like convert them into the madness that he writes, and he wrote all this cop stuff to try to be super interesting, cop wise and and detective wise, and like
he was like, I'm gonna add all this gumshoe shit, and then they end up in like cosmic disgusting horror.
Exactly. And the thing is, it just the detective stuff just isn't as good as like someone who writes detective stuff. So it's like you could tell it's like it's super vanilla, like and how deep it goes with like procedural stuff, and like how it goes. He didn't have enough chops to write that cool detective guy who was had all that classic guy sitting at his desk with the late afternoon sun coming in on the side, and like he's seen to gather stuff on the board, and
all his past due bills. He's like, I just need another good case.
Just one more. I can turn this whole thing around.
Nope, exactly. That's a gambling problem. Like Howard just doesn't. He just doesn't even get any of that. It's like he's a skirt chaser. Howard's like, what is that?
He's just all he does. He's like, okay, this guy, he has booze and he can see stuff.
And he's Irish.
And he's Irish.
Yep.
He's like, I nailed this. He's like, why don't I do this more often?
Yeah, exactly. So we're gonna run through the points here because I was gonna just have us do the quote, but I think I just want to run through them. So we get these knighted crypts and Titan arcades that loom before him. Love it. A knighted crypt, perfect, and Titan arcades, which just basically means that it's you have those looping arches and it has like a hallway kind of construction. So right there, we're in Howard's world, right?
Yeah.
You gotta love the half-formed hellish shapes, striding silently, clutching half-eaten horrors that scream or laugh.
That's wild, isn't it? And by half-eaten horrors, it's just people. It's like people that are just like parts, and you could just see them. Like some of them are terrified, and others are laughing. So here we're in like weird, Hellraiser territory. Like just that surreal, wild, vision stuff. It's crazy.
Yeah. Odors of incense and corruption assault his senses. So that's great. So he's already giving you, it's like, I smell this sweet, pungent, like nice incense, but also it's like, that is totally rotting flesh.
Yeah, it's like, blood, rotting flesh, just
poop.
Poop, I was gonna say poop and pee-pee? Poop and pee-pee?
Yes.
Maybe some vom?
Maybe. Every human, like bodily fluid is down there.
Yeah, as soon as he walks in, he's like...
Exactly. Shapeless elemental creatures with glowing eyes move in the black air.
Shapeless elemental creatures.
Yeah.
Whew.
That could be anything.
Yeah.
Yep.
Think about this. Gnomes are elementals. Could have been gnomes down there, dude.
It could be. Dark, sticky waters lap at onyx piers. It's just so, it's like, just sticky water. Dark, sticky water. It's like,
this is like a metal album cover.
Oh, this is the gate.
Yeah, this is the gate. Yeah. Wow.
And then we get on a carved golden pedestal squats a naked phosphorescent thing. We've heard phosphorescent before. And I think they even give us the motion where it swims out of the water, right? And then climbs up onto the pedestal.
Yes.
A gangrenous corpse, the rotting body of Sidom, sits upright before this being. Right? We get to see this body, and it's like, ugh. And it's so weird. It's like it's sitting, but then it sits up. It's down, but then it sits upright. I love it.
Yeah, and
it's just okay. That too.
Also that vision.
Yep.
All this other stuff,
but then also on top of that, we have the organ starts popping off.
Oh, come on.
And then the procession forms. And we'll let Howard take this one.
Goat, satyr, and Ejapan, incubus, succuba, and limmer, twisted toad, and shapeless elemental, dog-faced howler, and silent strutter in darkness, all led by the abominable, naked, phosphorescent thing that had squatted on the carved golden throne, and that now strode insolently bearing in its arms the glassy-eyed corpse of the corpulent old man.
So it's getting down.
So now picture the editor over at the Detective magazine.
He's just like...
He's like, what? Like, he can't even... His brain can't even comprehend what he just read.
He had to leave work early that day.
Yeah, he did. He was like, I'm not sticking... He threw it out. He threw the manuscript in the trash. And he was,
I need to go talk to my wife.
Yeah. I have to stare in the face of my child.
Yeah.
To purge myself of this. Like, at this point, man, that, like, hellscape. All right. I had a dream one time. We're huge Halloween guys, right? We're huge horror guys. Mm-hmm. And the Halloween aesthetic, right? You love that stuff. The scary, the I remember I had this dream one time that when I was like, you can't go too Halloween for me. You can't, like, get too... And then I had this dream that was like beyond Rob Zombie. It was Halloween themes that was like beyond like where he goes.
Okay.
And I remember waking up and I was like,
Texas.
God, it was just like
I'm just
no, I know, but it was just like I got to this point where I was like, that's too much.
Right.
I had that I got to the point where this is too into that realm that I just can't.
Yeah.
Like I knew my limit in my subconscious of how far it needs to be where I go, this is too far. And this is there. Yeah. Like if you really like reading it, that's fine. But if visually and you had to experience it, like visually you had to see it, like I'd be like, okay, this is too far. This is too far into, the horror aesthetic of it's icky. It's really icky. You could
it
smell
totally
it.
is.
Yeah,
it totally is. And then we get the final kind of weirdness where, like, you know, we have this procession of all these creatures that are like, and they have Saddam's corpse, and they're kind of like bringing it over.
Yeah, and
it gets up and knocks like the pedestal over that the phosphorescent thing. I'm guessing Lilith. It's Lilith, and knocks the thing over. And Malone, at that point, they kind of say that Malone kind of like, he's kind of staggered. He's like, and he kind of suggests like, you know, I was standing there, or like in my dream I was standing there. Like he kind of has that moment. He's like, this didn't happen. I can't even talk without puking. And that kind of like. And then there's the collapse, and then Malone kind of just passes out, of course.
Right.
We have our fainting spell. We should come up with a sound effect for whenever there's a fainting in a story, because there's so many more coming. It's like fainting, ding, 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 or whatever.
No, it would have to be like a wee, 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 something like that.
Some kind of like,
I'll find something.
And then, you know, all that croaking, cracked, like organ sound is just, and the howls all fade, and then it kind of just replaced by this weird distant chant. And once again, he's woken up to that weird chant of the "O friend and companion of night" thing, and that whole hideous and it's he hears this chanting, and it's clearly that they're kind of trying to like make this I guess this ritual kind of occur at this point. You know, that's like, there's kind of like that final thunderbolt crash that kind of occurs after, and like that's it. Like it's just that's the end of it.
Thunderbolt,
yeah. So kind of cleanse, like almost a cleansing lightning bolt, but you know, kind of maintains a little bit of his sanity in that way. Like it cleanses, but like kind of it, like whatever may have happened after that, I don't know. But it's the ending of this part is a little unclear. Like you don't know why they have the corpse get up and knock the thing over. It's like, well, what is happening here? And he doesn't really.
Yeah, I think maybe like what's his name? The Ron White. What's his name?
Sidem.
I think beside him at this point, it was kind of like he was doing all this ritual stuff and finding out as much as he could to even like maybe become the new entity, become the new master of blood magic. You know, it's just, you know, whatever it was. I think that, you know, it's up for us to decide what was happening. And this scene, this whole thing that led up to this is that movie in the 80s that like your parents wouldn't let you rent. You were told not to rent. Like that's what this is.
At the video store, it had a sticker on it. It was like it's like no one under 18.
Yeah.
It's like if you brought it up there, the guy would be like, nah, you got to get your parent in here.
Exactly. What are you 17? What is this? Yeah. But like that's the vibe it gave me right away. So that's kind of why I liked it as much as I did. And you know, there's more. I wanted to get that thought out that I forgot. Sure. Like, it was like, I remember seeing this and I was like, oh my God, I am 9 years old in Blockbuster. I'm seeing a cover of a movie. You know, it's like, you know, when you would see like Shocker or someone like, you know, some other movie that you're like, I am not allowed to see this. Yeah. My dad would let me anyway. But like, you know, it was just like one of those things where I was like jetted back to that feeling, that emotion. You know, when you're like not supposed to see something, and you were a kid and you would see it, but you would see like clips of it and you get kicked out of the room, and then it was up to your, you know, unfully developed brain to just muse and wonder about what is on the screen, and you create this whole world of like mystery, and it was when the world was so much bigger, and now like I could just find anything online and watch it and be like, all right, that's, you know, that's not whatever. But like, oh man, I got that feeling from this, and like that was cool that it hit me like a ton of bricks, that I was like, oh, I'm a kid again, and like, oh, this horror, like first ran on the subscriber episodes. Well, sorry guys.
Perfect. Love it. We need more red strings and pins.
Yeah, right.
Another little like biographical thing that may this is me speculating, but it may or may not be in here, but Lovecraft's wife was from Russia. She was also Jewish, which also, you put those two things together, knowing what you know about Howard, it's like, wow. But she came from somewhere else. And, you know, I think she was actually a little bit older than him too. She definitely was. And I think there may be some kind of correlation here between, like, you know, this weird religious or let's not say religious, maybe there's a correlation between these older cultural things that came from another place, and this woman that came from another place that's bringing these monstrous things over. I wonder if there's something to do with Lovecraft making the character or the main villain or main entity, whatever you want to call it, sorry, Lilith. Like, is this another like dig at his wife?
Sure, because you look at it this way too, because Lilith was apparently Adam's first wife.
Oh yeah, I was about to go into that.
Yeah, so he he probably used that as like, this is my first wife, and like he's like, I see the sins of Adam with
Right. And Lilith, after she was cast out, apparently she went out into the world and had like sex with animals and created all these monsters.
Yeah.
So that's definitely something that's in here. It's I mean, I can't put a finger on it, and maybe it's not really even, it's only in there a little bit, but I was like, what, there's got to be something to that, because it's why have that and then have so I think it is the blood of Lilith, or like when Lilith touches human blood, it creates stuff.
And if we're going off True Blood lore, she was the first vampire.
Oh, she was the first vampire, and all these bottles are filled with V. Is that what you're trying to tell me?
Yes. This is all V.
Awful. No, man, it's that whole section. That's the meat of the story, obviously.
Right.
And
I didn't even know at this point. I was like, where do we go from here? Like how I was like, the last chapter. I was like, what else can you tell me?
Well, I mean, that's part 7. I mean, this is essentially an epilogue, but it's a good way to transition us into here. So cut to a few days later. 3 houses in Parker Place, they collapse suddenly. So now we're getting the idea of where this is coming from. There's no warning, no demolition. Apparently there were when this happened, there were like some of the police were still down there, and there were prisoners down there, which, oh my god, they die. And they even say, I don't think I'm getting ahead of myself, but there were like some of the police down there found like in these cages like women with children, like these half-formed like mutated children. It's like, oh my god. And then you think about it, it's like, okay, so
my god,
so it's like either Lilith is communing in some way with these people and creating these monstrous children, or whatever the blood is, she does something to the blood or whatever, and it's never really described, but there's I don't know, the blood is the life. I don't know.
Yeah, it's just more of a it's just more of a thing to like just ponder about. Like they added like that in, and you're like, okay, so what other what were they doing? Like, what else were they doing?
Right. We don't get a full answer. I mean, they go down there, like I said, they find the children and the people that were killed, and then some of the children, they bring them up and they die in the sunlight.
Yeah.
It's
so
like,
vampires?
I just think they're such products of evil that they can't stand the sunlight. Which it's like, I love that.
Did you ever see the movie Baskin?
Oh yeah, years ago.
Yeah, it's kind of because like they do these rituals like that, and
right.
So cool. And then they make the guy make the kid with the chick. Right? It's just yeah. I mean, for me, it was over the top.
Oh yeah, well, this is over the top.
Right.
That's what we're talking about.
Yeah, and I kind of with that, like the kids and like this cult or whatever. Right. This
Yep.
I feel like that kind of they took a little bit of that this too for that movie. Maybe not. I'm getting those vibes because that is that kind of, like I said, 80s style horror movie that.
It's possible. I don't know how accessible this story would have been back then. It's really up to, honestly, the efforts of the Josh man, who was made sure that all these stories are available to us and in like the correct form. I don't know how available this story would have been, but if it was, that's certainly it's certainly a obvious, not even obvious, but it's a good connection to make. I mean, I could definitely see
I think Baskin, that came out in like 2013, I think.
No, yeah, I just mean in movies in general.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
gotcha.
Definitely. But Malone, who's found unconscious in the basement next to this night black pool, which I love that, because what the hell slithered in and out of there.
Yeah.
But nearby lies the grotesquely horrible jumble of decay and bone, which was the body of Sidon. It's like, ooh. It's like, what happened? It just get crushed, or was there some weirdness going on?
Yeah, was it General Zod? Did he get like put into that to like turn into Doomsday? No, I'm sorry.
Oh man, don't bring that movie up. Now I just thought of Jesse Eisenberg.
Sorry, buddy.
Delete the podcast.
Yeah. Oh God! And then that gave me the submechanophobia feeling.
Right.
Dark water, deep dark water, and there's something in it. Like that always gets me like the willies.
Perfect. So then the investigators they map a network of these subterranean tunnels, the best that they can do. And apparently there's a tunnel from Sidam's house down to a crypt that was beneath the dance hall church. And in that crypt, we'll let Howard tell us what was in that crypt.
The croaking organ was there, as well as a vast arched chapel with wooden benches and a strangely figured altar. The walls were lined with small cells, in 17 of which, hideous to relate, solitary prisoners in a state of complete idiocy were found chained, including 4 mothers with infants of disturbingly strange appearance. These infants died soon after exposure to the light.
Yeah, like I was saying earlier.
Yeah, I just...
Oof.
I think this would have been a much more popular story if the things in the beginning, if it was condensed and you keep the 5th, 6th, and 7th chapters maybe intact, or maybe just the 6th and 7th. But like, if it tightened up, I think this would have been one of his more popular stories.
Possibly. Well, we'll see at the end. We're almost at the end there. So dredging through the tunnels, they find sawed and split bones of all sizes. So that proves all those kidnappings they were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
2 surviving smugglers are arrested, but not convicted of murder. They don't find the gold pedestal, and there's just this deep well down there. The surviving Kurds are deported. Doctors confirm that they tie to the Yazidi devil worshippers. This must have been a big thing at this time. It's like, I don't even know what that is.
Yeah.
And I had to look it up, and it's just,
Are they like a cult of Abraxas? Is that what?
Actually, they're a cult of Polybius.
Excuse me. They mentioned Moloch in this at some point.
They do, man. They call them all out. We're about to tie it up. Real world practitioners of this, like I was going to say, they were real world practitioners of this ancient Middle Eastern faith, which apparently was just basically seen as devil worshippers. Okay,
right.
Probably talking about jinn and all that.
Yeah.
So, but for Malone, there's the official verdicts at the end kind of ring hollow for him. And at the end here, towards the end here, he reflects.
Malone thinks these detectives show a sadly limited perspective in their lack of wonder at the myriad unexplainable details and the suggestive obscurity of the whole case, though he is just as critical of the newspapers, which saw only a morbid sensation and gloated over a minor sadist cult, which they might have proclaimed a horror from the universe's very heart. But he is content to rest silent in Cepiche, calming his nervous system, and praying that time may gradually transfer his terrible experience from the realm of present reality to that of picturesque and semi-mythical remoteness.
And then in closing here, Lovecraft kind of warns us that Red Hook's evil, it's not gone. It's still there somewhere, and we'll let Howard take us out.
As for Red Hook, it is always the same. Sidam came and went, a terror gathered and faded, but the evil spirit of darkness and squalor broods on amongst the mongrels in the old brick houses, and prowling bands still parade on unknown errands past windows where lights and twisted faces unaccountably appear and disappear. Age-old horror is a hydra with 1,000 heads, and the cults of darkness are rooted in blasphemies deeper than the well of Democritus. The soul of the beast is omnipresent and triumphant, and Red Hook's legions of blear-eyed, pockmarked youths still chant and curse and howl as they file from abyss to abyss, none knows whence or whither, pushed on by blind laws of biology which they may never understand. As of old, more people enter Red Hook than leave it on the landward side, and there are already rumors of new canals running underground to certain centers of traffic in liquor and less mentionable things. The dance hall church is now mostly a dance hall, and queer faces have appeared at night at the windows. Lately, a policeman expressed the belief that the filled-up crypt has been dug out again, and for no simply explainable purpose. Who are we to combat poisons older than history and mankind? Apes danced in Asia to those horrors, and the cancer lurks secure and spreading where furtiveness hides in rows of decaying brick.
And then we get, from that, we get the final kind of like confirmation of that, where Malone hears at one point in this this Brooklyn archway, he sees this kind of like old woman, and she's kind of like saying something to him. She's like teaching him something, and he kind of looks over, and he kind of like leans his head in, and he hears that, "Oh, friend and companion of night, and the Gorgo, Mormo, the thousand-faced moon, look favorably on her sacrifices." So, this stuff is deep-seated. It's not going anywhere.
I love that. Like, that's such a good wrap up of like a story, and like I hate that this is hated so much, or is almost one of his pariah stories. And yes, I understand why. I understand the overt racism, and I understand the xenophobia.
Yep.
But I mean, that's part of storytelling. You're not gonna you're gonna say Tarantino stuff. You're gonna throw the baby out with the bathwater with that.
Well, some people certainly do. But I know exactly what you mean. Here's the thing. From your perspective, where you're sitting right now, you don't know where we're going. I do. And you're going to come back and be like, oh, I see why.
Oh, okay.
This is not a bad story. It's just that it doesn't lock in as well as some stories that are coming up lock in really well. So this does have great elements. I mean, there's stuff in here that's already from previous stories too. Like at the end there, when they're talking about that subterranean stuff, it's rats in the walls again.
Yeah.
Right, because it's like, oh, they find the sawed bones and like centuries of shit that was happening here. Like, how long was this happening?
Those kids are like pig people, basically.
Yeah, squealing white things that the horse steps on.
Yeah.
Ugh. All right, man. I'm glad you liked it. I mean, this is he certainly is putting some elements together that are going to come together real soon in some later stories. And that's great. That just tells me that you're going to really like the good ones.
Well, here's the thing. Like, maybe you can see the green horn fucking coming out of my head right now. But like, I really like the story. I mean, because look, one, I love detective stories, even though it's like I said, it's not he doesn't do his finest work of like painting the picture of this detective. We get who he is, but not like And then obviously we take this voyage on the vessel, and they they I guess throw him out in the water. There's whatever. It's just I love the second act here, or the third act, whatever you want to call it, is just I love it. It's so it is one of those visceral things where like I can see it. I get what everything was there, and even the wrap up, and then you get the old woman teaching the kids. So it's like you can kill the thing, but you can't take it out of the people. That's what he says. He says it's a hydra with 1,000 heads. I love that. That's so cool. And like I said, once again, I'm showing how much of a rookie or a noob I am, but I'm into this one. And call it what you will. I think it's a cool story, and I think this informed, like I said, the visuals of these cults and blood orgies and whatever you see in writing and movies and all of it. This has got to be the start of it, because they even talk about the part of the chanting in sinew, and as it comes to a crescendo. I've seen that. You saw that in The Acolyte, like the Disney show. You see that everywhere you look. Yeah. That's where this came from, and it's like, God, it goes to show that like you go back to this. There's masters that inform the rest of them. And it's just replication at this point. Like, it's all just replication, and you try to, there is nothing new. It's like musical chords, right? It's like, there's only chords. You can't, right. But you can't. There is no new chords. That's music. That's what it is. There's horror, and there's these things, and you can only take from so many horrors. And the guy already got to the cosmic, so like at that point, it's like he already did that. So where else are you gonna go?
Right.
No. God damn, I like this story.
No, hey, I'm glad you like it. Upon rereading it, and I'm gonna make a change to the way that I say things about stories before we cover them. I'm not gonna say that I don't like stories anymore, because I love Lovecraft's writing, and I even rereading this, I was like, oh man, I forgot how cool this part was. So I'm gonna stop saying that I don't like stories, because I reread this and I found reasons to like this story again. Even though, there's the obvious things with the racism and all that, which is unfortunate, but it's. The good writing is still in here, and the weird, subterranean horrors and and sticky lakes and all that stuff.
Yeah,
it's all there, and it still comes out. And I just, I'm with you, man. It's on its own merits. The weird stuff really does come through, and I mean weird in the definition of weird fiction where it's like, you get these things and you don't get a full explanation, and you get this mood and this, so I in that way it definitely succeeds.
Right. Yeah. I just, I don't know. Yeah, it's a vibe. It is like, it hits notes that like, I can see its cracks. I can see its, flaws in the writing and the, where it gets kind of messy and muddy.
Yeah.
But it really comes when the story turns, it really turns and it lands, and it's scary. It is scary. Like, a lot of this,
it hit one of your buttons, and that's great.
Yeah. And like a lot of it too is like, a lot of the stories too, you get to like, all right, like the Cats of Ishtar and like stuff like that. You get,
Cats of Ishtar.
You get like kind of like
Cats of Ulthar.
Ulthar, I'm sorry.
It's all good. It's all good.
But like once you get to certain stories, you're like, all right, I get it. It's not so scary. It's more of a thinker. A lot of these are thinkers, and this one, this one's like, and it's like I asked you, I was like, are people just ripping off Howard here and making these cults happen, or is it just been known forever that the powers that be sacrifice people and children to ancient gods?
Yeah, no, it's just been a thing for a long time, and it's kind of interesting because during the writing of this, there was a book that came out in 1921, which was called "The Witch Cult in Western Europe," written by Margaret Murray, and this book, even though it was turned out to be not true, she had the idea and put forth the notion that all pagan religions basically came from one root. That they were all basically the same thing. That there's this ancient religion, and it was possibly this, fertility, or possibly like what they call in the story a Magna Mater cult, which is Magna Mater just means like Great Mother. And
it's the cult from the movie Dragnet.
Yes. But it's the same cult that is mentioned in Rats on the Walls as well. So there's kind of like a little connection. But this was recently published at the time, and Lovecraft was kind of like putting this in there to kind of inform what was behind it, that like, even though they're coming from all these different places and they're mixed together in Brooklyn, these guys coming from like Iran, or these people coming from Africa, or these people coming from, Mexico or Spain or whatever, everything they're bringing, all their evil stuff is Italy. All really just Italy, of course. Yeah. Sicily.
Sicilies.
The Maloiks. Everything they're bringing over is all just their interpretation of the same thing. So that was a book that was out at the time, and it was eventually disproven. But at the time, Lovecraft had this in his mind. Lovecraft had this in his mind, and this is also another stepping stone towards, like we spoke about in previous episodes, where the Cthulhu mythos is behind everything. So whenever, it doesn't matter what you come to this as, and we will get there so soon. We're so close.
But that even though you say she was proven wrong, nah, I don't buy it. I think it is all the same.
It's not.
I think it's all the same thing.
Philly guy makes a hot take.
Sorry. Whoa. I hear you. We're in Warminster now, buddy. We stepped up.
To everybody listening, that's Philly.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. No, but I just want to put that out there. So like, that was, he even mentions it in the story about Miss Murray's Witch Cult. That's the book that they're talking about, because, so he that was in his mind. So we definitely have to mention that. Also, I just wanted to pull out, and I said earlier about, the lurking fear, because they talk about, they mentioned the name Martens. If you think about it, these stories could kind of be connected, because that was in upstate New York. Whatever they were doing up there, that they became these weird creatures, could be connected somehow. I mean, this is happening down in New York City. I don't know. I when I was reading it, I was like, oh, Martens. I was like, wait, this isn't far away. I was like, ooh, I mean, I don't know if he intended them to be connected, but it's like, they're eating people, there's degradation, like, who knows what's going on? You never really know what's going on down in that pit. It's just good times.
Yeah, man. But you know what? It kind of, his underground stuff gets wild. Like when we just went to the shunt house with the elbow, the body underground, and being all part of it. Like, it's just, God, I'm having a reinvigorization for this stuff. Like,
I'm glad, buddy. Also, they're going to get better as we go.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure. It's just that I'm so happy to be doing this, consistently again, and because I get to read and I get to use the old imagination station up here, and it's so fun. This stuff is so fun, and like I understand that we have to mention the bad stuff with
Yeah,
racism and
unfortunately.
xenophobia.
Yeah.
It sucks, it's a bad part of it, but it's just like I want to get immersed in this stuff, and good storytelling is good storytelling, and you don't get that. You don't get that anymore.
Not
So,
really.
Like, to actually get good storytelling and actually me and you doing something with it, it's so fun, and this is so
We're having a
cool.
good time.
Like, oh man, and like I can see the archways, the arcade. I can see it.
Yeah.
Like I can see the pale moon. I can see the like purples in the sky in the background. I can see the murky water. I can see it's oh god, it's so descriptive and good and fun and gross and icky and stinky and just it's hard to top. It's hard to top, and it's hard to when you actually are getting into it like I am. It's hard to want to read anything else or watch anything else. It's
that's a thing.
The best way I can describe it, and I've said this on our other podcast before, but like when True Detective season 1 came out, Walking Dead was like hitting its crescendo, and like I was watching Walking Dead, and I would get out of work. I was working grave shift. I'd come home, go to sleep. I'd wake up. I'd watch The Walking Dead, and then I'd watch True Detective. And I got to a point where I just couldn't watch Walking Dead anymore.
Yeah,
I was like, I can't watch this show. This is so far superior. And by the time I was done with True Detective season 1, I was like, I don't think I can watch any TV show ever again. Because it's just such a higher brow, and I don't even mean to say it like a snotty way. Because you're allowed to like what you like. People can like what they like.
Absolutely.
But like, it's just. This is such even this being one of his weaker stories. It's just such a different level of writing, and like it opens your brain differently. Like it's
mind expanding.
Yeah, exactly, and it forces your brain to go places because you're like, wait, what? Like I go back to when I first the festival when we first heard it, and I'm like, Throngs? Yeah, I'm like, what? What are we doing?
I need a dictionary for this
right,
podcast?
I'm like, I have to go to Google, put define, and then type words in. But no, it's I love this. And it's a shame that this is a broken kind of story, I guess, broken writing, but I think it kicks ass.
Hey man, I'll put it this way. Right now, out in Providence, Rhode Island, 6 feet down underneath Swan Point Cemetery, Howard's corpse just smiled.
I'm glad I can do that.
Well, I'm glad you liked it, buddy.
Philly guy hot take can make Howard smile.
Yeah, he's like Philadelphia.
Yeah.
All right, so next episode we will be covering a story called He. This is another story that explores Lovecraft's love affair with New York City. You'll see.
I love that I can bond with Howard over like my hate for New York, but mine's sports affiliated, and his is just
his is just ew.
Yeah, I lived there and hated it.
Yeah, he's talking about the putrescent, whatever the fuck. No, it's wonderful.
Yeah.
But before we wrap up for this episode, I just wanted to shout out some of our amazing patrons.
Hell yeah, man.
Yeah, it's going well. We thank you all, but I just want to give first special thanks to 2 Mythos Masters.
Yeah.
Alan and Jim. Guys, you're the best.
Alan and Jim, you know what? I can't. It's your call. You pick us Encyclopedian Cinema, and you come on the show. Come join us.
I've reached out to them. We'll figure it out. We'll have a good time. But Alan and Jim, I really want to thank you. Thank you a lot. It's wonderful because it was quite a shot in the arm because me and Ken were like, oh, is this going to work out? Let's see. And then right off the bat, we got 2. I was like, wow.
Yeah. We were like, yes. And, because I'm having a great time. I want to keep doing it. Jay wants to keep doing it. And you guys like you're the ones that are going to keep us going. And we love you. We appreciate it greatly.
Absolutely. And then along with Alan and Jim, I want to give thanks to Denise, James, Michael, Danny, Gabe, Mark, and Chad.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, folks. We really appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right, Ken, you got anything else to say about this humdinger?
Oh man, I went a little wild there. I got in my feelies. I got my little feelies there, and wanted to pontificate a bit about how much I'm enjoying myself. But no, it was one of those ones, like I said, that I get it. This is another reason this story, as you know, not well received as it is, this is one of the ones where I get why Lovecraft has the fans that he does, and why he's heralded as, you know, the master of horror as he is, because this is just, dude, this is it. Like this is how everyone kind of, like I said, in the 90s, the horror genre in film have basically thrived. It's like, it's you know, obviously it's a copy of a copy of a copy because, you know, they were like, oh, this movie did this, so this is an homage to this, and this. It all goes back to Howard doing something like this, and and I get it, and it's I'm proud to be a Howard head. Whoa! At this point,
whoa! Instead of cheese heads, we're Howard heads. We should have an H.P. Lovecraft head on his bust.
His bust on our head.
Perfect.
Oh man!
All right, folks. Well, once again, we find ourselves lingering on the edge of the abyss that Lovecraft so masterfully presents. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Learning Lovecraft. I've been Jason McKittrick.
And I've been Ken James.
And we'll see you beyond the Wall of Sleep.